Hello. Okay. I'm doing the video. Okay. If you're wondering who that was, that's Aaliyah. She's doing math work. Okay, so for Seth this week, we have many questions. We have 42 from Romeo, and from Brenda. I thought we had some from Brenda. Let me just have a double check. Oh, I'm mixing them up with the winning questions. So just from Romeo, it looks like this week. Okay, so I will get Seth and we will start. Hello? Alright. So requested the last 3 go first as they are more important to him. So 41. Is communication from non-physical subtle in the beginning, or can it be loud and clear from the very beginning? Usually it is subtle, but in some cases the person doesn't even realize that they have transitioned. So there was one Randy was reading about, and it was a man who had delivered a letter to someone. He had written it, delivered it, but it was after he had transitioned. I believe it was he was in a train crash and had transitioned during that. And so he didn't realize he had transitioned, so he walked away. And because his belief was so strong, he was still able to physically write, mailed it, and delivered it. And they have proof because it was mailed and received after he had transitioned. So in cases like that, where you're totally oblivious, the communication can be strong. It's not as common. And for those souls who are like just about at the level past Earth, because they've done it so many times, it comes quicker to them. So yes, they can be stronger in sending signs. Or if there's somebody who's really struggling, really having a hard time, a lot of despair, they can have help from their guides and other non-physical beings to get a message across right away. Okay, 42. I know my father has been watching over me and my family. Is there anything that he wants to tell me or us in this moment in time? Maybe some advice or words of encouragement. Nothing in particular. Just to keep having fun. You don't have to be worried about him, which you've lessened a lot. You don't need to be worried about your mom because she's doing okay and she will continue to move forward. There's no guilt, so if other relationships form, whether they're friends or romantic, there's no guilt that it's taking away from anything they had or will have, because it doesn't work the same. So if that does come into her experience, there's no guilt. It's all good. That's how everyone feels once they transition. And yes, nothing in particular. Just keep having fun, keep going forward, experience life. You don't need to plan everything, and everything works out. So keep reminding yourself everything always works out for me. It's always working out for me. "42. I'm curious. What does my dad do now that he is in non-physical? What does he spend most of his time doing?" He's actually taken up dance, tap dance, and salsa dancing as a hobby. It's not quite the same because you're not in physical, so even if you can dance with a partner, it's not the same because you're not quite able to touch and hold and experience that part of it, but he has taken up to dancing. And he would like to incorporate that in the next experience somehow. Maybe a hobby, even a career, an instructor, maybe, live in South America or Spain or something where it's very popular. So yes, dance. It does check in lots to see how things are going and send signs regularly. But yeah, dance is the main interest at the moment. So we will scroll back up now to the other questions. Okay. Number 1. If there's one piece of advice that every human should know, what would it be? To have fun. Stop taking life so seriously. This is very fitting because Randy earlier today was subbing and they were a bunch of cuckoo birds and they were only, 8 to 9 years old. And she, was telling them, you guys are Looney Tunes, you're cuckoo. And they thought it was funny, but she didn't really mean it as a compliment. It was more like, you guys need to calm down. She's thinking, if you could keep carrying on this way, you're going to have heart problems when you're older. But they're a very competitive group, and they take everything seriously. Every rule. When they played Foursquare, oh, well, the ball hit on the inside line. No, it hit out here. No, it hit there. No, it hit here. You're out. No, I want to redo. No, we don't have time. You're out. Throwing rocks after and anger and just they're not, that class is not allowed to play certain sports because they're too competitive. They have to play cooperative games. So these kids at such a young age are really missing the point of have fun with life and let things go. That's what they need to learn. So that should come into their experience soon. And so for everyone, have fun, be spontaneous, follow your urges because they're signs for non-physical, listen to non-physical, recognize signs when you get them because you'll get more and more, and don't take it so seriously. Don't take everything so seriously. Let it just roll off because eventually you will transition and it's all gone. So enjoy it while it's there, and then you're on to the next experience. 2. What is spontaneous human combustion, and what causes it to occur? Almost sounds like a science experiment. I'm going to get a definition for those who aren't familiar with this, so that we're all on the same page. So we all know what combustion is, we all know what spontaneous is, we just went over it, but let's get a definition you can all understand. So, spontaneous human combustion is a term encompassing reported cases of the combustion of a living or very recently deceased human body without an apparent external source of ignition. Examples of the phenomenon appear in literature, and both types have been observed to share common characteristics regarding circumstances and remains of the victim. So they're going to go off into all their different explanations, but it's not common because most haven't heard of it, but it's kind of like when you transition but it's not fast enough and something very dramatic has happened and you just need to leave now. So non-physical responds and they send you flying, which can cause your physical body to combust. But sometimes people want to go out with a bang, literally, so that can be a cause. But more often than not, it's all of a sudden, it's just gotta be out of here now, get me out, gone. So, you know, the literature will say, oh, well, in many cases, the person had high alcohol content, blah, blah, blah. But that could just be a pattern where these people who are having very, like, I don't know, drunken moments right before transition and just need to get out, it's just happens to be a bit of a pattern, but it's not the reason why. It's just whatever circumstances they're experiencing, which can be alcohol related, heavily intoxicated, that the body combusts. So some people look for that experience, some people don't, and it just happens because they're so desperate to leave so fast. 3. What does a human typically feel when they're about to spontaneously combust? You won't feel anything other than this extreme urgency to leave, to be gone, to be in non-physical, to be dead, to be in heaven, to just get me out of here. It's like a panic. So you won't feel like hot or anything. And as with any transition, before you experience any extreme pain, you're pulled out and you transition. The body is just left like a shadow figure so that something occurs in physical. Okay, let's go to Brenda's. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if I will be choosing not to return after this physical journey, after this existence. Yes, having fun is the key. Do I need to focus on this? I feel like I'd like to step to the next level. What does Seth think? Not quite there. Everybody always wants to move ahead, move forward, but no matter how many times you move forward, you will always be in motion. So it's just like with asking. When you're asking for stuff, the asking never ceases because there's always something else that you'll think of that you'll want. So with moving forward, you always want to be going ahead and ahead, but if you do step 1, 2, miss 3, 4, do step 5, well, you're missing 2 important steps. So you'll come back, but when you're born again, you won't have this feeling of, oh, well, I want what's next, because you'll be starting over again, and you'll be focusing on some different trait or experience. So you might feel a little restless right now. People who are on the leading edge and who know about this stuff, they tend to feel that way because they always want more. But you won't be unsatisfied in the next life. So you will have different experiences, and this feeling of restlessness will pass. Okay, number 4. When did the first human ever spontaneously combust? How and why did it happen? It would have been the caveman times, and it would have just been out of sheer panic of, get me out of here, I need to leave, I can't do this. And back then they were much more in touch with non-physical, so they knew where they would be heading, so it wasn't scary to transition. It was like, okay, I'm going back to non-physical, so get me out of here now, I want to be there now. 5. Is it possible for an animal to spontaneously combust, or is that something that can only happen to humans? It can, but it does less often because animals are much more in touch with non-physical and with their feelings and with nature and outside, so they don't tend to experience that kind of panic. Like, when they're being hunted, they will be scared, but it won't be absolute terror. It's the experience they're looking for, so they know it's their time. And other animals, like dogs, when they're old, will wander off and go lay down and transition because they know it's their time, so they don't tend to experience the same kind of panic. Unless they're babies. Maybe like something falls out of a tree, that could be sheer terror, but it's not quite the same for an animal to combust. I mean, and anything is possible, but much less common. 6. I've heard that humans only use about 10% of their total brain capacity. Is that an accurate estimate? How can we allow ourselves to use more? You use a lot more than that, and the percentage fluctuates. So, first thing in the morning, maybe use 15, 20%. A couple hours into the day, you're closer to 40. People come up with all sorts of statistics, but they don't fully understand the mind. But what they're getting at is that you have this unconscious, subconscious part that you don't implement a lot of the time, and if you did, you would manifest a lot faster. So, meditating before you go to sleep, asking for things before you go to sleep so that your mind works it out overnight, focusing on your emotions so that you can decipher which vibration level you're at and then move on. Using the processes could be considered not using all of your brain because you have all the answers there. You just have to do a bit of the work to get the results. So, not understanding vibrations is more what it's getting at, but just read more of the material, do the processes, and then it all becomes second nature, and then you can think of yourself as using more of your brain. Number 7, there are several times when I've picked up on what I believe to be sacred geometry patterns. What is sacred geometry and what purpose does it serve in our reality? It's like any sign from non-physical. So, it could be a pattern that, like a spiral, it goes out and then it goes inwards. So the idea is that everything comes full circle. Everything will lead you to the same path, to the inside. So there's, messages within geometry. A triangle is a solid shape. It's strong on each side. Visually, they're just nice to look at a lot of the time, especially symmetrical shapes. But sacred geometry, you could think of the pyramids and different patterns they used on the walls and things. They used a lot of geometry that they enjoyed, but it's more so the energy that goes towards it, like through prayer. So when people go and see a Buddha, they all pray. They're putting their energy and their desires towards it. So it's the same with these patterns that you're picking up on. There's a lot of energy and appreciation that goes towards them, which makes them hold that energy and be able to give it back to you. So it's just another type of symbol that can harness energy and then release it. Number 8. What was the reason behind Kim Jong-un firing or testing missiles? Just to show his power. He is just interested in letting the rest of the world know, I have these and I can use them if I want. He does not plan to use them right now. Actually, Randy read a headline about Kim Jong coming down on Trump for leaving the agreement that he left. It was quite funny that he would be talking down upon another politician, but he just likes to show his power. He's like one of those people who just show their wealth, show what they're capable of, but they hardly ever act on it. Because to actually, fire one would cause a world war, and he doesn't want that. He wants an easy life, but he wants to feel powerful. So it's just like, it's just for show. Okay. Let's go to Tina. Will my youngest son ever talk? He is struggling, but it's possible. There's no brain damage to cause him not to speak. It's just a shy soul, a shy personality, and part of his experience is learning to come out of his shell and connect with others. So keep showing him affection and get him a speech coach who you like as well, because if you're happy to take him there, that puts good energy towards it too. If the one you have right now is not quite working, then try a new one and continue to go, practice with him, read to him, and don't worry about it. Just some kids develop later than others. Randy's mom bought her brother a book called Leo the Late Bloomer, about a lion who was slower at developing than others, but eventually got there. So don't worry if it takes a bit longer. Actually, they were discussing this the other day. Some of the kids had to go to speech therapy and had trouble pronouncing words and had kind of different accents they're putting on words, so nothing to worry about. Number 9. Supposedly the current year is 2017. Why did humans begin counting the years after the crucifixion of Christ? Why wasn't anyone counting before then? Oh, they were counting. They just weren't recording it. Or records got destroyed, but time is more of a modern concept. Whereas before, it just went by months and seasons, especially with farming. So all they really cared about was, when do we need to plant, when do we need to harvest, and it was based on that. When is it going to be warm, when is it going to be cold? But now with the business modern world, you have deadlines and you plan events, so you need dates to give to each other. So for all of those things to have happened, you needed a calendar everyone could agree on. So they just went on based on the rotation of the earth and sun up and sun down to get hours, and created this calendar. So yes, the calendar you're going by is accurate as far as you're concerned, but all time is made up, so it's just part of your physical experience. 10. The current year is 2017 according to Christ, but what would the current year be if we were beginning to count from the day that the 5,000 juveniles were first transported to Earth? You're thinking more in millions of years. Because there's so many years before even the dinosaurs that modern science does not understand and, tries to date back, but the Earth goes through so many changes itself because it is also souls, so we're talking in the millions for years, but again, time is made up, so it's not totally accurate. And for your purposes, 2017 is what you have. 11. I believe you've mentioned that high-speed space travel can affect time differently for those traveling at high speeds or something along those lines. How and why does traveling at high speeds manipulate the amount of time that passes for the travelers? So this would be similar to if you're on a SkyTrain compared to if you are in a vehicle. SkyTrains can go at faster speeds, or, okay, if you're on a highway compared to on a city street. Driving through the city seems to take longer because you're going slower. If you're going faster, you're covering more ground, so it seems to go faster. So in space, if you're traveling at high speeds, you're getting farther quicker, which makes it seem more and more possible to get even farther. If you're going slow, it takes longer, and so people get discouraged and think it's going to take forever, and then you don't end up traveling as far in space. So when you think of a planet as close or far, it affects how fast you travel, how efficiently you travel, and your ability to even get there. If you saw Pluto as close, it would be close. If you saw it as something you could travel to quickly, you would. So it's all about perception and your feelings towards it, because you think it's going to take a long time, it will. So based on numbers that, astronomers and such have come up with, they give you distances and they calculate how long it would take with current spaceships, and that's what you believe, and then you just see it as being far and long and difficult. 12. I'm having trouble imagining what you look like as a family of teachers. Are the three energies that make up Seth gathered around in a hurdle, or are you more like a blended singular being? We drew it for Randy once, so we think of like a toque and three heads under it that are kind of pushed together. Think of Play-Doh. Think of like a blue, a purple, and a green blob of Play-Doh. You push it all together and it becomes one. And it's harder to pull it apart, but you still can, but there's parts of it connected to each. So we come in an appearance like when Robert Butts painted us. Well, the original us. We come in one form, so it's not terrifying. But yes, it's more like three meshed into one. Once sessions are done, we pull apart. So it looks like one. 13. We can see what's happening when you first come through Randy on the physical side, Seth. Randy usually says, alright, let's bring Seth through. Next thing we know, you're here. But I'm curious about what it's like over on your end. Do the three of you become one and then hop into Randy's body? What is the process of coming through a channeler like for family of teachers from a non-physical perspective? That is a good question. So, okay, if you think of like a ride at a park or something, where it's one of those big swings, and that rush you get, that really fast momentum. So, we kind of always hover around Randy, because she's always constantly asking questions, and we're talking, we're in communication, we're always kind of around. That was the agreement. We'd always be near, which is the same for Abraham too. So, we're always quite close, but when she wants to channel us, the three of us, yes, come together and we are close, and we don't go 1, 2, 3. We're all transported as one unit. So, like on that swing, where you get that fast momentum, when she invites us in, it's kind of like she's stepping aside within herself to create a space that we can occupy, and then the three of us go on this swing ride and whoosh into her, and then are able to fill the space and take over the movements and such. And then when she wants us gone, it becomes like a vacuum, so we're kind of sucked out really quickly. But I mean, it's not aggressive like a vacuum, but we're swooped out, and then we separate, and then we're back to our separate non-physical selves. So it's kind of like a ride, and it's pleasant. It's not unpleasant. Like some of you think that the swing is unpleasant, but it's just kind of like a whoosh feeling. 14. I've heard that every death is a suicide, and that we always have a choice whether to live or to transition. If this is true, then wouldn't that mean that we are pretty much immortal and shouldn't fear death? Yes. There is no death, so there's nothing to fear. You can never run out of time because time is infinite. You might leave this particular experience earlier than you thought, but with these multiple levels of existence and reality, these alternate, realities, you go on in all the other ones, so you're never missing out. It's just in this particular exact part of your personality that you might transition and go on to something else. So the physical body you inhabit may change. You may look different. You may live somewhere else with different souls, but also some of the same souls you've had before, because you come in clusters. But yes, there's no reason to fear death, because it's a thing that humans have created, and you all go to non-physical, and you're always reunited with people you want to see, so you're never separated or alone. Okay, 15. Let's say that I died and then chose to continue living. Would I forget that I even died in the first place? Not necessarily. And if so, then wouldn't that mean that there's a possibility that I've already died multiple times? Possible, but not likely. Like, it's not like you die and then come and die and come. But there are times when people will have like a heart attack in their sleep, but go to this non-physical and then realize, no, it's not what I want, and come back. Or they have this choice. Maybe they hit their head and they have a concussion and they go to sleep and they're heading towards non-physical, and they're given the choice, you can stay or go, and they choose to stay. But it's not like a constant choosing where like once a month you're having something and you're, oh, you want to come or stay. It's just once in a while, if at all. So usually you don't remember, sometimes you do. And in cases where like somebody drowns, they see the light and they feel like they were hovering above their body, and during surgery people say they were looking down and they saw the surgeons, and it's all happening. They're being pulled towards non-physical, but they choose to stay. So lots remember, lots don't, but not everybody experiences it in each experience. It's just when things are kind of at a teetering point and you've got that option. Tina, my daughter's father transitioned before she was born. Does he see her? Yes. Always around. You might have heard her talking to herself or an imaginary friend. She was talking to him. He is always around. If she kind of goes off in the garden or outside and finds a really pretty flower, he's pointed it out to her as a sign that he's around. If she might not say it, but if she kind of feels like something move her hair, like wind in her hair, or tugging at a ponytail, that's him playing with her. So they do communicate quite a bit. But she might not say it because she doesn't know the words for it, but yes, he's definitely around, and you know, it seems sad that they don't get to share this experience, but they are, so they're just experiencing it in a different way, which is something they both wanted to experience, and you know, they're not missing out on anything because he gets to watch her grow up, so it's just more of a special connection, more of a metaphysical one. 16. What is the all-time record for the most number of years that a human has ever lived, and what allowed them to live for so long? $127 is the one that wants to be known. There could have been a couple that lived more to like 132, 34, but they don't want that number out there. They don't want the claim to fame. So 127 is recorded as a Japanese man, because their diet is seen as very healthy. Now with food you can eat anything and it's healthy, but because everyone's always raving about how the Japanese eat so healthy, they eat so great, that's why they live so long, they exercise, they have great discipline, all these great traits, it builds them, and they're seen that way, and so it affects them positively, and so they're able to live so long. And people who tend to live that long want to observe the family grow up, so they want to see the great-grandkids grow up instead of just the grandkids. And they're really enjoying this experience, so it's hard for them to want to leave. And they come for the experience also of being an elder and who has lots of information, but also someone who's older and might need others to take care of them. So 127 would be the person who would like to take credit for it at that age. But up to about 7 years past that, there have been others. 17. Thank you for recommending the magical creation box process. I love the concept. Jerry Hicks says to clip moments and experiences that we would like to have. What are the various ways we can clip moments, and which ways are the most effective? If you find something like, say you want to swim with dolphins in Hawaii, if you get a picture of the tank or the pool or whatever and dolphins in it, don't print it with pictures of other people in it. Instead, superimpose your image and whoever you want to go with, so that you're physically in this picture, then put it in the box. If you enjoy drawing, then draw the experience, because you're putting your energy towards it. And, you know, put as much details as is fun and add some color. So that's a great way too. So nothing with prices and nothing with pictures of other people. Just trim it and add your own picture, or keep it blank. Like, say it's Tahiti. You could just have a picture of a nice place you'd like to go in Tahiti, or even a specific resort. Or you can have that plus your picture on top. Adding your picture definitely strengthens it, but sometimes just having the image itself is perfectly capable of manifesting it. 18. Would the magical creation box process be able to help me win the lottery? And if so, how can I capture the winning lottery ticket numbers? So, with the lottery, there's never a set of numbers. It's based on whose vibration is most in alignment, who's asking the best, and who's in the vortex. So it can change at all times. So you don't need to focus necessarily on the numbers. You want to focus on the outcome. Why do you want to win the lottery? Well, you want to have lots of money that's disposable to you, to have great fun experiences. So focus on how you would spend the money, and that's what you want to put in the box. Because maybe in order for a lot of these things to manifest, you need a large amount of money, and a great way to get that money is to win lottery. So focus on how it feels to have a winning ticket, to realize the numbers are the winners. That excitement, that rush, that who are you going to call first? Are you going to tell anyone? Jump for joy, that like huge rush and wave of excitement. That's what you want to focus on. So keep filling the box with the things that you want. Know that they will be yours, and focus on the rush of winning the lottery. And that is how you will draw it to you. 19. Is there anything that Jerry Hicks would like to share with the world at this moment in time? Perhaps a message or a new process for attracting what you want? So Jerry was always goofy, and he talks about how, you know, him and Esther would put on clown noses and drive their motorhome just to be silly. So being silly on a more regular basis, making a silly face at your nephew, or, you know, a kid in the grocery store line, like trying to make them laugh. Just be silly more. And instead of focusing on numbers, like I want $1 million, I want 10 million bucks. I focus on, I want funds in the amount that I can do all the things that I want to do. I want to attract into my experience an amount that will allow for everything I'm asking for. And keep asking for those things that you want, and that is how you will get the money to fund all of the fun. So, fund the fun. Think of money in an amount to fund the fun. So your way to build a home, 20, that can withstand any natural disaster and weather condition using modern day technology. If so, how can this be done? You don't need it. All you need is to be on a high vibration and to appreciate your home. So you could have a shack made of wood in the middle of a field of dry leaves, and you could have hundreds of them, You could have every single one get burned down except yours. And that's because you weren't worried. You knew the house would protect itself. You knew nothing bad would come your way. You know, you didn't need that experience. You just wanted to enjoy your house and get to keep experiencing experiences in it. So you don't need this like foolproof home. You just need to know that what is the experience that you want, and appreciate the home because you know it can provide that. So if you're vibrating high enough, your house can't burn down. 21. If I were to ask Mother Earth / nature why she allows natural disasters to happen sometimes, what would be her response in her own words? It's a rebirth of the earth. So every time there's a forest fire, yes, trees are burnt down, but it allows for new growth. Every time there is a tsunami, sea creatures are moved around, things are shifted to allow for new growth. So all natural disasters, not the best word, all natural dramatic events lead to new growth and new purpose. Yes. And, you know, people are asking for those experiences, so people want to experience those things. 22. You've mentioned that part of you is physically focused here on Earth as an animal. Do animals think similar to the way that humans think? What sort of thoughts, if any, do animals usually have? Lots do. You won't find like a fly who's a philosopher. A fly is just focused on moving around, getting food. That's their experience. Horses will talk to each other and they will have these kind of thoughts. So they'll, discuss the relationships with each other, and I mean, they don't focus as much as humans do on like food, and because they just eat like hay and grass and flowers and such, but like they'll discuss the weather, they'll have these discussions and these things. Dogs do, cats do. But a lot of wild animals come for the experience of being a predator or being a hunter or surviving, so they're more focused on survival mode and they learn from their experiences. But owls are quite wise, like they're rumored to be, and cougars are very smart. So in some ways they do think as much as a human would, but some animals, they're just here for a quick experience, like a mouse. The mouse doesn't typically have in-depth conversations with each other. They more just here for a fun, quick experience. Okay, Brenda. Do these natural dramatic events include humans? For it to be like the fault of Mother Earth, no, not in that term or sense, but yes, things will change and grow because of certain humans. So with Adolf Hitler, he wiped out a lot of people, caused wars, did a lot of things, but what came from that was more of a sense of community within the US. They bonded within each different country. Jewish people bonded together. Even like Germans and Jewish people, like Germans who hid Jewish people, they thought about what was really important to them and bonded. You know, all sorts of jurisdiction that came out of it, and well, we never want that to happen again, so how are we going to change it? So definitely humans can influence big change, even when their lives had a lot of negative impact. It will cause things to change and to grow and to improve. "23. Why do dogs usually bark? Do dogs communicate through barking? Why do they bark at strangers?" They can, but they can also communicate telepathically, but I mean, some people just like to talk for the sake of talking. Well, dogs can be like that too. They just like to bark to be heard. Dogs in the country especially, or in the city, if they hear like a strange noise, they'll bark to alert their owners because they're trying to protect or to scare off whatever they hear, or to let whatever it is know that I'm here and I'm not scared of you, I'm strong. And when they're playing, they like to add energy to, if they're wrestling or something, to bark at each other to show dominance. So it's just like with kids playing, how they giggle and yell and talk. A dog is similar like that. So they can communicate through barking, especially if they're far apart, but they can also communicate telepathically. 24. What do you mean when you say that everything is made up? And if everything is made up, then what is real? Are you real, Seth, or are you just a figment of my imagination? Well, everything is real, but time is a made-up thing, so time doesn't work how you think of it. It's more simultaneous. It's not so linear. And it's not that things aren't real, but you create your reality. So sometimes you can create things that are not physical. So if you have a strong fear of aliens, you could see a spaceship in the sky that's not actually real. It's just something that your mind has created to validate it. So it's more that things are ever changing, and while you're here you have all these different experiences, but when you transition you go into a new set of lives and a new set of things. So it's more that things aren't as solid and permanent as you think of them. That's more what we would focus on, because each soul is real. It's just that all this stuff in physical, yes, it's not quite real. It's just a physical thing that's been created, but souls are what's real. Okay, 25. Did John Chang, aka Dynamo Jack, actually exist? And if so, could he really do all the things that he was doing in the documentary? Okay, for background's sake, John Chang. So that we get the words correct in how we think of them, we will just get a quick little write-up. John Chang, psychic powers. John supposedly learned from his master, aka Mr. Weird Banana. Dynamo Jack first came into public view when he appeared in Ring of Fire and Indonesian Odyssey, a documentary filmed by two English brothers. Okay, let's just get a little more. Okay. Dum 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 dum. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, Dynamo Jack's ability to heal with chi. The crew asked if he could heal the man. Okay, so superpowers with healing. This is like a medicine man or woman. If the belief is there, the want, the desire to be healed is strong. The asking is strong, the belief is strong. So it works. He could heal people because especially when you get into like ancient stuff and trained by this person, and then people really buy into it and believe it. So he could tap into life energy. Yes, he's very good at that. He had help from non-physical to help him be a great fighter. There are a few things he never lied about things, but he just wasn't necessarily as skilled at them, and maybe exaggerated some things, but because people knew he could heal and he was a great fighter, it just added to his sense of ability, and so people just kind of psyched themselves out and built him up to be more, and so it gave him more energy that he was able to harness and be successful. So he never lied. That's not his purpose. And yes, understood chi and energy and how to use it. 26. Is the astral plane inside the universe, or does it have its own universe? There's many, many planes in this universe. You can think of Earth as one main plane. And there's many planes that cross over within Earth, and it just manifolds outwards with all your other planets. So you can think of the universe as having many planes, but yes, the planes are more or less in the universe. 27. Seth, you mentioned that you can split your energy and be at more than one place at the same time, which I think is pretty cool. Would it be possible for you to describe what it feels like to be at more than one place at the same time to a human such as myself? You can think of it as when you're awake and you have a flashback to a memory. You're physically here, but you are reflecting on something else. So you kind of put this on hold and you think of that memory. But it's just more separated. So instead of being on hold here, you would continue on while still reflecting on that. So it's like someone who multitasks. They wash the dishes while they talk on the phone. So they're here having this experience while they're on the phone, but they're also talking on the phone and invested in that experience. So it's like when you multitask or are reflecting on a memory, it's just more separated. So you can compartmentalize it and then, focus in each place. Okay, we will do 3 more. 28. You often tell us to ask the universe for things that we want, Seth. The universe sounds like a very powerful thing. Is there anything that is greater than or outside of the universe? Is the universe the ultimate entity? The universe is all-encompassing. Yes. Ultimate entity. It doesn't go bigger than it. There's lots of things that help the universe, but all that is, and source, and the universe, that is the biggest thing. 29. To me, it seems like there are two versions of the universe, one being the stars and the galaxies, etc., and the other being this metaphysical genie that grants all of our wishes. What is the universe? Is the universe itself a soul? Is the universe a being? The universe is, yes, the stars and the planets and all that, but those are just physical representations. The universe is source, so it's source energy. It's this mecca that everything spawns from. So it's, you can think of it, I guess, as your creator, but it breaks apart and has these different things to look at, but it ultimately works together. And yes, anytime you have a request, it will work it out and deliver it. So, source energy is the universe. Alright, last one. If someone truly believes that the rapture will take place and that Jesus Christ will come back, then does that mean that they will create the reality for themselves here on earth because of the power of beliefs? Not necessarily, because they might believe it, but they aren't necessarily asking from the right place. So instead of, Jesus coming back, they might be introduced to some new material that they really connect with and get some kind of spiritualness out of. But like, let's say one person really, really, really wanted Obama to come back and be president. Well, that's not going to happen, but they could get someone like Obama who becomes president, or Obama gets put in a position where he can have influence again. So they won't necessarily get the exact thing, but they'll get something similar that achieves the kind of results that they're looking for. Okay, so questions 31 to 37, nope, to 40 will be added to the next session's QO. So, that is all for today. Those were really good questions, and we will head out and continue to write the daily emails and go from there. So, we're going for our vacuum out again. Thanks for watching, and bye. Rocky joins now. Okay, bye.